Hello, my name is Robert Hunt. I'm a writer of 7 books, 3 with a co-author Lisa Ivany of Gander, and 4 solo consisting of Corner Boys, Townies, Brazil Street, and The True Meaning of Christmas, all published by Franker Press here in St. John's, Newfoundland. Saying that, I'd like to read you from my work area here in St. John's, an excerpt from my favourite book, Corner Boys. The area surrounding Newgower Street was our particular territory growing up. The bottom of Brazil Square, which was now the Delta Hotel, was our main playground. Brazil Square, which no longer exists, was at the lower part of Brazil Street. It extended down into Newgower Street. Casey Street branched off Brazil, intersecting John Street. Haggerty Street and Springdale Street were to the west, and Centre Street and McFarland Street and Flower Hill were to the east. These streets were our domain for more than 2 decades. Sometimes we would wander over to other streets, such as Barter's Hill, where we hung out at Martin's Meadow and Lumberyard, or one of the many other streets that bordered our area, Central, Livingston, Lime, Monroe, and Cabot. But mainly we stayed in our own area of town and never encroached on other guys' territories. To do so could possibly lead to a fight. In those days, Brazil Square was sort of like a city within a city. Except for a few businesses, it was made up of mostly boarding houses that charged minimal rates for a night's stay. Its nickname was called by Townies Bayman's Paradise. A lot of people who came in from St. John's from rural Newfoundland on business, to visit relatives, to attend Memorial University, or for medical reasons, stayed in boarding houses on Brazil Square. The rivalry between the Townies and the Baymen were fierce in those days. People said that those from around the bay came into town to take jobs away from us. That didn't stop us from dating the out-of-town girls, though. However, some of the boarding houses in the area were Eddie's, Dean's, Bats, Tucker's, and the Brownsdale Hotel. We always had a cousin or someone from outside St. John's moving or staying in with us while they were in town, working or going to university. Memorial University was situated on Parade Street until 1961. My cousins Isabel Dix from Rushune and Sarah and Kevin Barry from Port Royal stayed with us every summer. Isabel and Marion Argo from Dad's home of Herbert Breton stayed with us when they went to Munn. Kenny's fruit store was opposite the Brownstein Hotel at the bottom of the square, located on Newgower Street. At the top of the square was White's Fish and Chips and Higgins' store. Local businesses made a good living from people who came into the city. Glasgow's meat market on Brazil Square was in competition with Casey's meat market around the corner on Newgower Street. Bob Glasgow was a good, kind-hearted man with whom I worked part-time with when I went to school. Many times I heard him tell customers who were short on money to pay him some other time. I'm sure that in the past year and a half I worked for him, he was owed a small fortune. But I never heard him ask anyone for money. Jack Indy's shoe repair was next door to Glasgow's. Jack was a distinguished gentleman with a long grey hair, always smoking a pipe. He was self-educated, well-informed, articulate, and always open to discussion about any news of the day. He could hold his own in conversation with anybody in the neighbourhood on any topic, especially when it came to politics. My father would always shop in and talk to Jack when he went to Brazil Square on business. Jack did wonderful shoe repairs and could make a pair of John White shoes last a family of 5 forever. The Salvation Army was very much part of the scene. Its members would gather around the telephone poles on Brazil Square and sing hymns. People used to drop money for the poor into a small collection plate. The army was revered by people in those days because it was always there to help anyone in need, regardless of their religious beliefs. Its members made home visits and sacrificed what little they had to help others. They would literally give you the shirt off their backs. We used to congregate on Haggerty Street. We spent many nights sliding down this steep hill without any worry of cars getting in our way in those days, for not too many people could afford to even buy one. or drive one, especially in that neighbourhood. We were one level above the being truly poor. But the corner was always our main hangout. We would meet there at least once or twice during the week, even on school nights and every weekend. The boys and girls from the area got together to talk, often into the wee hours of the night, about music, friends, jobs, school, sports, and anything else that was fit for conversation. Girls talked about the boys talked about the girls. Both talked about hardships and reunions and breakups. The corner was where everyone went to swap stories about their lives and how it was going, what problems they were having, and how many things were changing and were continued to change. We headed to the corner whenever we wanted to hold a powwow about life. I met my friends there from age 8 to 27. I think those meetings affected everyone's life in some way. They certainly influenced mine. Friendship meant a lot in those days. And little did we know about that lifelong relationships and even marriages will result in these tribal get-togethers.